Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. We're following some developing news out of Germany, where the country's left-leaning Social Democratic Party will begin negotiations to form a ruling coalition. According to preliminary results of Sunday's election, the SDP narrowly won the most parliamentary seats, nearly 26% of the vote. Chancellor Angela Merkel's party received 24% of the vote. It's still uncertain, however, who will be the next leader. Both the SDP and the Christian Social Union have said they want to begin coalition negotiations to form a new government. Robby, what else do we have?
Well, Stephen Semler is back to discuss his reporting on the Democrats who took money from the military-industrial complex and the role it may have played in a Pentagon budget vote. Roger Fisk and Emily Jashinsky are also here, and they'll weigh in on reporting that Kyrsten Sinema used the winery where she interned to fundraise with private equity. And Kim Iverson is back. Because of the time difference, she'll join us for the second half of the show.
But first, a new expose details the CIA's alleged plans to kidnap or kill WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Yahoo News reported that while Assange was holed up for his fifth year in Ecuador's London embassy in 2017, the CIA and the Trump administration, led by then CIA Director Mike Pompeo, debated plans to kidnap and even kill the exiled journalist. Calls for the Biden administration to drop the charges against Assange have been mounting, especially in light of the expose. In a statement responding to the report, Freedom of the Press said, "The CIA is a disgrace. The fact that it contemplated and engaged in so many illegal acts against WikiLeaks, its associates, and even other award-winning journalists is an outright scandal that should be investigated by Congress and the Justice Department. The Biden administration must drop its charges against Assange immediately." Kevin Gosztola, managing editor at Shadowproof, who's been closely covering the Assange case, joins us now to discuss. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, thank you. Good morning.
So first of all, let's talk about the implications of this extraordinary reporting from Yahoo News on the extradition case that remains ongoing. The U.S. is appealing its rejection of its attempt to extradite Assange. But does the fact that the U.S. has now been implicated in plotting both either the assassination or the rendition of Assange play into their ability to extradite him? In other words, can a country legally extradite somebody that they very recently plotted to kidnap?
I'm afraid, without getting into the specifics of what was revealed in the report, that in fact the legal system in the UK could continue to plod forward without contemplating what is at stake here, what is at issue with the CIA's plans to allegedly kidnap or even kill Julian Assange, because it's on such narrow grounds that they are considering whether the U.S. has merits for its appeal and whether they should be granted this extradition request.
Yeah, this is a simple question. Is the government admitting they've done it? What is their response to this report? Are they just no comment?
Well, if you're asking if the U.S. government has conceded that all of this activity went on within the CIA, there are several clips over the last weeks and months with reporters confronting people like Secretary of State Antony Blinken. There's a recent clip of an Al Jazeera reporter questioning Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary. And every time you ask the officials in President Biden's administration about this case, they want to pretend like it isn't ongoing. And I think it's because they realize how shameful it is and how much of the world loathes that this is continuing at the Justice Department.
Right. Well, let's play that Jen Psaki clip right here, actually.
Members of the administration, you recently this week have talked about the importance of journalism to democracy. The president also made a point of saying his presidency was different from his predecessor. So why is President Biden keeping the Trump-era charges against Julian Assange? Why is he allowing the prosecution from publishing the truth about human rights abuses in Iraq, Afghanistan, Guantanamo? And does the president believe the ongoing detention of Assange is reasonable, even moral, given the transparency delivered and the greater good served?
Well, I don't have anything new to say on Julian Assange, and I would point you to the Department of Justice on that.
All right, so that clip predated this recent reporting, and we'll see if Psaki is pressed on that again. But there's going to be an impulse among people to say, you know what, This was just, Trump and Pompeo being Trump and Pompeo. This is a couple of crazies. But there are a number of important details in the Yahoo News story that undercut that attempt to dismiss it. And one of those is that it says that the plans to kidnap Assange actually predated Pompeo, that there were already plans kind of on the shelf that Pompeo was able to draw from. And certainly he pushed it forward. And he encouraged the agency to get more aggressive in its thinking. But is that surprising, Kevin? And what do we know about what the CIA had been planning even before Pompeo and Trump arrived?
Yeah, so what Michael Isikoff and the other two reporters at Yahoo News map out here is that when WikiLeaks made the decision to assist or try and help Edward Snowden, NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, get to some kind of safety, of course, he ended up trapped in Moscow. But when they made that decision to try and help, it changed the calculation on the part of the Obama administration as to how much they were going to avoid or use discretion when it came to pursuing an Espionage Act prosecution against Julian Assange. And so then they decided that the CIA could go back to doing any kind of collection against the CIA. And following that, what we learn is that CIA Director Mike Pompeo was so obsessed with Julian Assange, particularly after the Vault 7 materials were published. And these were basically revelations around offensive cyber warfare tools that the CIA has, that they lost control over. And it was shameful. They had mocked the State Department and the Pentagon for losing control of their documents to WikiLeaks. And then now they were the victim. And WikiLeaks was laughing at them. And so Mike Pompeo was obsessed. He didn't want Donald Trump to learn that they had lost control of these sensitive materials that reveal things that, like, how you could put malware or target Samsung televisions, or go after the Signal or WhatsApp encryption applications that are messaging apps, zero-day exploits, which we've had a lot of attention to with the Pegasus spyware revelations. And so then he says, we got to go after him. We've got to redesignate WikiLeaks as a hostile entity. And they say in the report that they couldn't actually prove within the CIA that WikiLeaks was working directly for the Russians. And so they were not able to target the organization for disruption going that route. So in order to target them for disruption, they had to now redefine WikiLeaks as a hostile entity.
Now, the partner of Julian Assange, Stella Morris, tweeted, "It's impossible to overstate the significance of the expose of CIA plans to kill Assange. But Russia exfiltration claims are false. Corrupt security contractor UC Global admitted fabricating RU claims to keep $200,000 a month U.S. bribes coming. CEO is charged over plots and obstructing justice." Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so what she's referring to is there's a bunch of intrigue in this story based on conversations with officials about a potential shootout that could have occurred outside the embassy. As you have all these spies, including UC Global, that are collecting the communications of Julian Assange and his legal team and associates and trying to figure out how Ecuador is going to see if they can spring him from the embassy. And I think they wanted to bring him to a Latin American country. That was what I had always understood. But now we learn that through Fidel Narvaez, there was some conversations with Assange about potentially relocating to the Ecuador embassy in Moscow. But Julian Assange rejected going to Moscow and living in that embassy. And so anyways, what's most incredible about this report is that it talks about shooting out the tires of a Russian plane. And I can't imagine, think of the sort of diplomatic catastrophe that we would have on our hands if any Western country was found to have shot the tires of a Russian plane, let alone any other country's plane. And then it says in there that the British government agreed to do it for the United States if they were asked. It's incredible.
Yeah, on one hand, it's hard to imagine people our government contemplating even doing this, and on the other hand, it's not at all hard to imagine our government contemplating doing this because they do stupid and horrible, unethical, illegal, murderous things all the time.
Just wanted to get you to elaborate real quickly on the Guccifer 2.0 connection, because I thought it was really interesting the way that Yahoo reported out that the intelligence agencies really desperately were trying to prove that WikiLeaks was a Russian-backed operation, because then that opened up all sorts of capabilities that they could then offensively carry out against WikiLeaks. But they simply didn't have the evidence to back that up. What they did have is that WikiLeaks had communicated with this hacker, Guccifer 2.0, who they say, with some credibility, was a front for the Russian government, for the GRU. But their problem was nobody could prove that. A journalist doesn't necessarily know that. And lots of journalists, including some from the Intercept, I don't know if they were at the Intercept at the time, were in communication with Guccifer 2.0. This account was contacting lots of different journalists. And so if just being in contact with a person who may have some connection to the Russian government that you don't know about makes you a Russian entity, then everyone in journalism is a Russian entity who communicated with that person. So they ended up backing off that case and went with their fallback plan was, well, they're a non-state hostile actor, so therefore we can carry out offensive operations against them. Is that about right? And what do you think of the Guccifer 2.0 connection?
Well, so I think what's really important here, as you're raising this, is that we should talk about the fact that in this article it mentions that the CIA was thinking about classifying Julian Assange as well as other high-profile journalists, including Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras, who at the time I'm sure were their focus because they were working on the Snowden documents. They wanted to reclassify them as information brokers so that they could get around a whole bunch of legal guidelines that they're expected to follow at the CIA when it comes to collection, as well as whether you can target certain individuals for disruption and mount offensive intelligence operations.
Yeah.
And so that to me is something we need to chew over and discuss, because essentially what they're saying is they're going to treat journalists much like they might treat arms traffickers or arms smugglers. So essentially you could be accused of information trafficking, or you're an information broker. And so just the fact that you have documents that you possess from a source makes you someone that the CIA, or I suppose any other intelligence entity in the United States government, could target you and try to prevent you from doing journalism. All of these people that we're talking about, whether it's the Snowden documents or even the Podesta emails, were involved in putting forward revelations that were in the public interest. I mean, we don't have to go down the laundry list of why, but these people were engaged in journalism, and they were not engaged in hacking of any U.S. government agencies.
Yeah, really,
right.
Really concerning stuff.
Yeah, and to be clear, information brokering is journalism.
Right.
That's what journalism
There's no
is.
official designation. Right. Anyone who practices journalism is a journalist.
You're getting information from sources and you're putting it into the public. That's an information broker.
The government cannot hunt you down and kill you for that.
Well, they can try.
They can try. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we'll tell you what's on our radars coming up next.